I'm going to introduce our very first speaker, Angela Philp. I'm so delighted that Angela could be here in person with us today. You know, Angela actually lives in Toulouse, France. She's the founder of Queen of Possible, and she's up at burning the midnight oil. She's got a focus on women's leadership specifically and personal transformation coaching. Angela's clients reconnect her with her creative energy and accomplish what's really important to them with greater power, joy, ease than they've ever thought possible. So please give a warm welcome for Angela Philp.
Hi, I can see you. Hi, everybody. Hi, Kylie. I want to thank you for that awesome introduction. And I am up burning the midnight oil. I'm here running an awesome conference with women from civil society here in Brussels. And it's really cool to be up burning the midnight oil with you. And so I do want to share a story with you today. And I'm really fired up by your passion, Kylie. In fact, I can really relate to it. And it draws me back to this bee in my bonnet that I have about resilience, because resilience is really my thing. And I had a question. I was wondering if you, or when you first remember knowing that you were resilient, because I think resilience is doing us a disservice. And so I'm wondering for you, is it something that you recognize in yourself? Is it something that you've named your resilience? And I remember the first time that I overcame, that I felt powerful. And I think that's because how we define resilience by overcoming in the face of adversity, bouncing back from setbacks, bouncing back like a rubber band. And I wish I had a rubber band here that I could have, that I could not snap, it's not what we want, but that I could pull. Anyway, it might be hard to believe now, but I want to tell you a story about resilience, about me, a scrawny little thing that I'm saying that it would be hard to believe. I was born 6 weeks preemie with the umbilical cord around my neck. Now, I don't remember this. This isn't my first memory, but I was 1.5 kilos and fighting to survive. Right from the start, I was resilient. But my first real awareness that I want to tell you about of being capable and strong and powerful came when I was a little under 5 years old, and I just learned to swim. And my dad, he was a really tough man. So I was born in New Zealand and grew up in Australia, and we had a phrase in our family that was we were tough, and the further up the street you got, the tougher you were, and we lived in the last house. And so I just learned to swim, and I was standing by this river. And my dad looked down at me, and I was not quite 5, and he said, I dare you to swim across the river. And for a big man like him, that didn't look too hard. But for a little thing like me, it was really, it felt like a world away, and it felt really dangerous. And I looked up at him and I said, Dad, what's going to happen if I don't make it? And he looked down at me and he said, well, you'll drown. So I took my courage into my 2 little hands, and I dived into that water, and I swam across the river. And, spoiler alert, you can see I didn't drown. But that was my first real experience of overcoming adversity and developing resilience. And that became a powerful metaphor in my life of sink or swim. And that sink or swim or bounce back against the odds metaphor that we have dictated my approach to life and its challenges for a long number of years, literally, and it cost me greatly. I actually literally lost everything several times and kept bouncing back again and again and again. And the problem I see with this is it's not just me. It's something like you were saying, Kylie, before. It happens to many women. And it concerns me greatly because it sounds so valiant, rising and overcoming against the odds. We're always celebrating the underdog who rises up, and we think it's great and we are rewarded for it. But is it that great? Is that how we should be defining resilience? So I'm 52, and I've had, as I was saying before, I've had my fair share of things to bounce back from. School bullying, that's swimming, school bullying. I've changed countries 4 times. I was in a verbally and then physically abusive relationship when I was young, when I was 21. When it did become physical abuse, I waited for 6 weeks for the bruises to go down before I dared going back to my parents' place. And then when my mum saw it, she guessed, and she sent me to live back in New Zealand with my auntie. And it was in New Zealand where I developed this love of adventure racing. So I'm a real adventure racer. And in this magazine on a friend's in a friend's shop, friend's mountain biking shop, I saw this bloke with a bike on his shoulder crossing a torrent, and I went, I want to do that. That was me, like real extreme adventure. And I also wanted to work for UNESCO. So I found a way of getting to work over here over at the time in Paris for UNESCO. And I found a way of learning how to, or joining an adventure racing club and getting into adventure racing. And it was a perfect way for me to live the definition of resilience that was bouncing back and surviving. So there's nothing about thriving in it. It was all about bouncing back against the obstacle. And so I kept this adventure racing. I could run 20 kilometers with a stone in my shoe and not stop, not bother my team, keep my mouth shut. And during that time in France, speaking of, just want to run through a few of the obstacles. So my house burnt down, literally to the ground, no worries, bounce back. Had a car accident, rolled the car 3 times with the 2 children in it, no worries, bounce back. And one of my friends said to me on a sailing trip, I think after all of that, there was also divorce. I think a number of us have been through that. It's quite a trial, but no worries, bounce back. And I think when you're talking about defining moments and transformation, Kylie, there were 3 moments where I really thought, is this resilience thing actually doing me any good? The first time was when a friend of mine said that he was the only person I knew who could be seasick and smile at the same time while I was being ill, overboard. And at the time, I remember taking pride at that. And I sort of started thinking afterwards, so is this really who I want to define myself as? And the other 2 defining moments were when I'd been working as a new recruit. When I wasn't working at UNESCO at the time, and I was working as a new recruit and this for this conference producing company. And for 3 months, I was working with this manager, John, and the name has been changed to protect his privacy, but that was the voice he spoke to me with. And after 3 months, I just thought I was useless, and I'd been trying and I'd been struggling to get my work right. And I went to the managing director and I said, clearly, I am not made for this job. And I said, I think I have to leave. And she went, oh, no, it's not you. She said, you don't have the problem. And she said, we just hired you to be with him because you were the most resilient of the new recruits. Again, you get caught in that sacrifice cycle of always being the one to, to be identified as someone who can put up with pain. What is that about? And the last one, the real defining moment was when I crossed the finish line of my last adventure race. And it was 475 kilometers of extreme sports. So everything from kayaking 60 kilometers, hiking 100 kilometers. There was all sorts of other sports in there. But the day before the race started, I fell off my bike and I dislocated my shoulder. I didn't realize it dislocated my shoulder. It just hurt. And I continued this race. We did it in 3.5 days with 9 hours sleep. And as I pulled myself across the finish line so I didn't disappoint my team, I really started thinking about what resilience meant, what this bouncing back, what this no worries, you can count on me, I'll do it, no worries, I'll overcome attitude really meant. Because I noticed it wasn't giving me wings and helping me thrive. The definition of resilience that I was living into was actually, it was a bit like what doesn't kill you make you stronger, but it wasn't making me any stronger at all. It was just keeping me small, stuck, exhausted, and in a loop of being a real sucker for punishment. So I don't know if you can see yourself in any of this, and I know that I don't have the I know that I don't have the worst stories. I do a lot of resilience work with women in Africa, women refugees in Africa, and I know that I'm not there to teach anyone any lessons. But we've been working together, or I've been working on a whole new definition of resilience that can help us to thrive. Because if we keep defining resilience by this ability to continually bounce back from setbacks, it takes its toll on the women, us who are the carers, the doers, the ones who hold the world on their shoulders. And we start to derive our worth from being a survivor rather than thriving. And we fall into that sacrifice syndrome I was talking about. And we make ourselves work harder. And we keep telling ourselves that by working harder, we'll get different results. And we don't see different results. We just get more and more challenges that we have to overcome. And so if we change that definition of resilience, if we stop considering bouncing back as valiant, and we started defining resilience as being more like water, more like the river, it was the day that I saw resilience in this way that my life really transformed. Because resilience, like the river, is a whole other world of power. And its secret ingredient, what I really realized, the ingredient that's most overlooked, dismissed, and it's minimized every single time in this world of strength, is creativity. So I realized that my resilience didn't come from bouncing back, but from the creativity of finding a way forward, whatever the circumstances. And much like what you were saying, Kylie, as well, it's about banding together, working together. Resilience, we are more resilient when we have a mission like the river, and also when a river is powerful when it's a torrent, when all of those drops join together. So what I want to say is that a river is never confined by its circumstances. It floods if it feels like it. It dries up if it has to. It overpowers with force, but only when necessary. It's not defined by overcoming only, but by moving forward towards something infinitely more powerful and expansive and bigger than her, and collaboratively together. And so I just want to share with you, if I've still got the time, I'll just have a check in the chat because I haven't had a look. I've got a little bit of time. Okay. I want to share with you 3 distinctions that I think will really be helpful to you and that were really helpful to me in redefining resilience for myself. The first one is effort versus struggle. When we're in resilience that is diminishing and saps our energy and disempowers us, it's that we're in struggle rather than effort. And it's a really nuanced feeling inside, an experience to look for. The second one is flow. I'm showing you 3. The second one is flow versus force. Life is always going to have its obstacles, its highs and its lows. But who said that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional? I would really say that I can't remember who it is that said that, but I definitely think that suffering is optional. And as with struggle, if you continually feel like you're forcing, you're likely not on the right track. And if you're swimming with the flow and in the flow, then you're still going to have to exert an effort. So we've got to look at this difference between effort and struggle. And it's a defining line for me every single day of my life now. And the third is cultivating curiosity over certitude. It's the difference between that thought of, I already know how this is going to turn out and I'm going to overcome, or, oh, here we go again, or, oh, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I wonder what I'm not seeing. And what if I asked for help? And what if I was destined for greater? What if there's something further down the track that I'm aiming for rather than this thing that's in front of me that I'm determined to overcome? So today my life actually flows. I have heaps of challenges, but not so many catastrophes. My house has only burnt down once. I haven't had another car accident. Things seem to be aligning themselves a lot more since I've changed my definition of resilience. I feel now like I am the river and on a mission bigger than me, creator of my life. Unstoppable river with the collaboration of others, showing up in every moment of every day, as you were saying before, Kylie, always showing up, but with some flow, with some creativity. And I want to tell you that you are the river, and we are creative and powerful together. And that's leadership. That's resilience. And water always finds its way.